Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. President Biden and the DNC seem to be rigging the 2024 primary before it's even started, in the event that President Biden wants to run again, or for whoever he passes the baton to if he doesn't run again. Let's start with President Biden on 60 Minutes this past week, not really definitively saying he's going to run for president again. So Biden's hemming and hawing apparently freaked out his actual bosses, the donors. Let's take a look. This from Puck News. A number of people in my circle, this is the author Tara Palmieri, a number of people in my circle have been buzzing about Joe Biden's 60 Minutes interview, in particular his comment about how he hasn't yet made up his mind if he is running for re-election. I've heard from donors who called the White House after the segment aired on Sunday to ask what was going on and, well, if he is indeed running. So let's just break that down for a second. Joe Biden doesn't give a straight answer. I don't want to violate FEC laws, yada, yada, yada. I don't know if I'm going to run for president. And immediately, who calls the White House? The people that own this country, the United Corporations of America, his donors. So that's obscene, but we'll continue. Despite Biden's public equivocation, the White House has responded that the president is absolutely running, all systems go, etc., and that this hesitation was simply a manifestation of his caution about violating FEC laws. A Republican Congress could turn this or any other perceived issue into another Benghazi. Some donors bought the line, others weren't so sure, suspecting that it might just have been the White House cleanup job. Quote, neither the timeline nor what the president has been saying has changed, a Biden advisor told me when I inquired about it. The president reiterated what he has consistently said, that he intends to run for re-election. But the news also comes on the heels of a few other revelations. For starters, Jill Biden has publicly said that she and Joe still haven't had the conversation about 2024. And as I've reported, Biden insiders know that she will have a huge impact on this decision. The Biden family's well-being truly comes first for the president. It's not just a talking point with him, blah, blah, blah. Also, Biden has been known to back away when his heart's not in it, even and perhaps especially when the party's powers that be are pressuring him otherwise, a la his goodbye to all that speech in the Rose Garden in 2015 when he bowed out of his presidential Cold War with Hillary Clinton. There's also a telling nugget in an NBC story from last week that suggests that Biden wants to preserve his optionality. Instead of building a robust second Biden campaign, his team is going to rely on the DNC for infrastructure. Oh, how'd that work out last time? Giving him the ability, if he pivots, to subsequently step aside and pass the campaign apparatus on to another 24 nominee. Sources I've spoken to wonder if the DNC is even equipped to run a full-scale presidential campaign. Well, we know they're pretty equipped to rig primaries full-time. Others say this is what the DNC should be doing anyway, mobilizing for a general election campaign, no matter who is the candidate. But wait a minute. I thought the DNC was supposed to be neutral. Just, help fundraise, set up debate schedules. Why would they be doing a full-scale presidential campaign operation for Biden? Well, the devil's advocate could say, well, Jordan, he's the sitting Democratic president, so of course the DNC would be very involved in his campaign. Well, this is a democracy, right? Aren't there supposed to be the opportunities for primary challenges? I know it's frowned upon in official Washington, D.C., but shouldn't there be a runway if people in the Democratic Party or outside of, elected officials want to primary President Biden? We know that there's been primaries against sitting presidents, including Jimmy Carter in the past. So why would the DNC, if it's a neutral body, which of course it's not, already be essentially the full-time campaign apparatus for Biden 2024? And of note, if Biden doesn't run, this story basically said that they could just seamlessly transition the operation, the DNC operation, to whoever Biden passed the baton to. Let me go in detail on that NBC News report. President Joe Biden's top aides have been quietly building a 2024 campaign effort with increasing discussions about who might manage the operation, potential themes, and structure, according to 9 people familiar with the planning. The current plan is for a Biden re-election effort to rely heavily on the resources of the DNC and only have a small campaign staff, a cost-saving configuration that follows the model of then-President Bill Clinton's re-election bid and dramatically differs from then-President Barack Obama's campaign, these people said. Biden and his top advisors also are using the home stretch to November's midterm elections to test possible 2024 themes, the people familiar with the discussion said, such as taking on wealthy special interests and casting his achievements in office as promises made, promises kept. Mind you, he ran on a $15 minimum wage, a public option, police reform. How are those promises made, promises kept, working out for the working class of America? Yeah. I don't hear anything actually on a $15 minimum wage or the public option. Actually, Biden's trying to privatize Medicare as we speak, which The Lever has done great reporting on. The behind-the-scenes 2024 planning goes further than Biden's verbal assurances that he intends to run again, as some members of his own party question whether he will or should. At the same time, people familiar with the discussion said the process is quintessential Biden, in that it's painstakingly deliberative and key components remain unsettled, leaving some Democrats still unconvinced that he'll ultimately run. The DNC campaign dynamic in particular suggests an approach of going through the motions to a Biden 2024 bid, in that it sets up a political operation that could instantly mobilize if he runs or could transfer to a different nominee if he stands down. He's, quote, "He's running and we're building an infrastructure for him to run and win," said Cedric Richmond, a key Biden advisor who moved from the White House to the DNC earlier this year. Right now, it's all an early investment in 2024 while we're helping 2022. Some key campaign decisions on strategy and personnel are on hold ahead of the midterms, and as polls show, Democrats have a better chance of holding on to the House and the Senate than they did just several months ago. If the party maintains control of Congress, the president's priority will be on his legislative agenda, and Biden would likely want his top advisors to remain in place to help execute plans, the people familiar with the campaign discussions said. But they said Republicans win one or both. If Republicans win one or both chambers, that would likely trigger a quicker pivot to a Biden re-election campaign. So there's a lot of things here. First off, the DNC, which we all know, is literally an arm of the Democratic Party. It is meant to keep the status quo intact in the Democratic Party. It threw its whole body on the scale on behalf of Hillary Clinton in 2016, rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders, which is really what they're upset about against Julian Assange. They are upset that Julian Assange exposed what we all already knew, that the DNC was working behind closed doors to hand the primary to Hillary Clinton and defeat Bernie Sanders. And the DNC also did no favors to Bernie Sanders in 2020. Now, yes, for an incumbent president, it would make sense that the DNC is supporting the incumbent president. That's completely different than literally 2 years before the election, before we even know if he's running, the DNC basically setting itself up as a de facto campaign apparatus and campaign manager for a Biden 2024 run. Well, how can we actually how can we actually believe that in a democracy, anyone else would have a chance if they primary the sitting president? Of course, anyone who primaries the sitting president, if he runs again, would be, the scourge of DC society. The corporate media would pummel him or her. Obviously, the Democratic Party chieftains would pummel him or her. They would, basically say, you are handing the election to DeSantis or Trump or whomever. You're dividing the party. We all know. But at the end of the day, if we have a democracy, which I thought all the January 6th hearings and all of this was about saving democracy, which I agree. I don't actually think we have a functioning democracy. We have it in theory, but I'm totally against what was done on January 6th. I think those responsible should be held accountable. But how could you on one hand be saying we need to preserve democracy, but on the other hand, we're just going to kind of basically have the DNC serve as Joe Biden's campaign apparatus 2 years before the election. And if there's a primary challenger, who knows, Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, someone we don't know, yeah, we already have the DNC ready to go to neutralize or just totally extinguish that opponent. If Biden decides not to run, we could just move our apparatus over to the next person, whether it's Kamala Harris, Pete, or whatever other neoliberal ghoul they put in place. I mean, people will say, Jordan, nothing to see here. This is just the DNC doing what it does. There is something to see here. The DNC, if it's to be neutral, is basically declaring now, yes, there will be no consideration or tolerance for a primary challenge to Biden or whomever we, the people in the back room, puffing the cigar smoke, decide will be his successor. We shall see. I mean, right now, I don't have any inside information. I hope there's a primary challenge to Biden. I hope it's from a progressive. Do I believe they would have a chance to win? Probably not. Do I believe the progressive movement in this country badly needs something to, inspire it again, to excite it again? Obviously, you have the union movement that's going on right now that's really amazing. You have the worker strikes going on right now that's amazing. Possibly a railroad strike coming. I'll be interviewing another railroad worker on Monday. So there are things happening in the progressive movement, in the working class. But I think the progressive movement could really use a voice in a presidential election, a voice to debate Biden, a voice to actually insert all that he has failed to do, his broken promises, his basically, return to neoliberalism and conservatism. The fact that literally they're not even funding COVID testing vaccines anymore, citing, we don't have the money. Well, you got plenty of money to send billions to Ukraine, but you don't have the money for this? What about a public option? $15 minimum wage? That's the conservative position now. So I think we badly need a progressive voice in the 2024 election to primary Biden or whomever it is, whether they win or not. We need somebody there to fight and to have a voice and to be a representative of the progressive movement. But as of now, what you're seeing is the DNC already in motion, essentially to rig a potential primary before it even starts. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.